This is the expressive transliterating part of the exam. You have been asked to transliterate for a deaf student in a mainstream 5th grade math class for gifted students. This is the warm-up section. Okay, class, for the rest of the period, we're going to review some geometry problems. What we're going to do is review some formulas that we've studied already, and we'll use them to solve some actual problems. Please follow along and take notes on the figures and formulas. Is everybody ready? Let's remember that we're all learning together, and that you can help your neighbor as we solve these problems. You will now have 1 minute to prepare for this part of the exam. You will be prompted to begin transliterating in 1 minute. Begin transliterating. Here's today's word problem. Let's say Mr. Jones wants to build a storage shed, and he wants the walls and the roof of his shed to be made out of plywood. And he wants it to have a cement floor. We are going to use geometry to show how Mr. Jones can determine the cost of the plywood and the cement he will need. And to do this, we are going to use a basic formula that we've studied a lot already, which is the one to find the area of a rectangle or a square. We'll also be using the new formulas that we learned yesterday about how to find the volume of a container and how to measure the area of a triangle. You might not realize it now, but one day these formulas will be really useful to you all. Okay, now please write this down, because we'll need this information at the end. The cost of the materials are, let's see, the wood cost $3 per square foot, and the cement cost $14 per cubic foot. By the way, don't worry about the cost of labor, because Mr. Jones is going to do all the work himself. Mr. Jones wants a medium-sized square shed with enough room to store bicycles, a lawnmower, and boxes. 2 of 3. Let's say each wall will be 10 feet long and 8 feet tall. All 4 walls will be equal in size. So after we find the area of one wall, we can just multiply by 4 to find out how much wood we'll need for the walls. All right, let's review together. To calculate the area of one side, we multiply length times width. So we get how many square feet? That's right. 10 times 8 equals 80 square feet. But, like I said before, we now need to multiply this number to get the total amount of wood that we'll need. And you're right. The answer is 320 square feet. Now, I bet some of you might be wondering to yourselves, where are we going to put the door? And you're right. That could complicate your calculations somewhat. But we'll let Mr. Jones worry about that later. Eventually, Mr. Jones will have to cut an opening where he can install the door. Now, what do we need next? That's right, Mary. You got it. We need to figure out the area of the floor, so we know exactly how much cement to buy. Who can tell me how to do this? This one's super easy, isn't it? We know each side is 10 feet, so the area of the floor is 100 square feet. Finding the area is the first step to calculate the cost for the cement. The second step is to use that new volume formula we practiced yesterday. Now, how do we calculate volume? Remember, in addition to the length and the width, we need to know how thick Mr. Jones wants the floor to be. Let's make the cement floor 3 inches thick. Now, what do we do when we have one measurement in inches and one measurement in feet? That's right, we have to convert in order to end up with consistent units of measurement. Oops, there's the bell. We'll just have to pick up where we left off tomorrow. And we don't want to forget the ceiling of the shed. So tomorrow, we'll also find out how much the roof will cost, which will be fun because we'll be using our new triangle formula. Then we'll have a pretty good idea of how much Mr. Jones will have to pay for all the materials. Before we leave, class, I have an announcement. Quiet down, please. This applies to a couple of you. The student council will meet as scheduled on Wednesday, but the room has changed. So check the bulletin board for the new information. I guess they're remodeling or something on the second floor. See you tomorrow.